Okay, we're going to call to order the Boise Parks and Recreation Commission meeting for Thursday, July 17th. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Burnham,
Here.
Mazu,
Here.
Walker,
Here.
Raber,
Here.
Urban,
Here.
Johnson, and Stidham. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting of May 14th, 2025.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes from May 14th, 2025.
Do I have a sec? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Sorry, my button's being silly. Okay, thank you. Next up, we have a presentation by Lieutenant Matt Sly to talk to us about Senate Bill 1141, the Galloway Law update, which we're excited to hear about. Thank you for being here.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you guys today about our approach to Senate Bill 1141. I apologize. I've been fighting sinus infection for a couple of weeks now, so if you can't hear me, I apologize. I'll do my best to get through this. So what I would like to do is kind of just go over the camping and sleeping definition as defined in Idaho code as it relates to this. Public camping or sleeping means unauthorized lodging or residing in a temporary outdoor habitation used as a dwelling, lodging, or living space, which includes sitting, lying, or sleeping for a prolonged amount of time. It may be evidenced by the erection of a tent or other temporary shelter, including a motor vehicle, or a recreational vehicle, and may include the presence of bedding, pillows, cooking, appliances, heat sources, or the storage of personal belongings. Public camping or sleeping includes sitting, lying, or sleeping on a public walkway, creating any hindrance, obstacle, or barrier that interferes with the use of the public walkway. So, as you all are aware, this took effect July 1st of this year. So some of the information in this slide was presented to City Council by Chief Dennison. There'll be a little bit of stuff that was prior to July 1st, and then I'll cover a little bit of information after July 1st. So our approach as it relates to this prior to July 1st was outreach, education, and connecting individuals with available services, which we still are currently doing. So citations over the past 3 years, there were 74 citations issued for camping in public park, and camping in the Capitol Mall or other state land. There were no physical arrests made by the Boise Police Department for camping-related offenses. Citations are issued based on real-time availability of shelter space, and that is one of the things that has changed since July 1st, and I'll talk about that. The majority of citations occurred in the shoreline area and camps along the Greenbelt. So when I talk about the shoreline district, I'll just kind of go over kind of the area mainly that I'm talking about, and it's really kind of River Street, and it goes from 17th Americana shoreline, 14th, 13th, and kind of wraps around and covers like Royal, Lusk Island, Sherwood, 9th Street, Capitol. So it's kind of a weird little odd shaped area. But when I talk about the shoreline district, ultimately, that's what I'm referring to. So the Galloway Law, Senate Bill 1141, passed by the state legislature and signed by the governor earlier this year, prohibits cities with populations of 100,000 or more from authorizing, permitting, or enabling public camping or sleeping on public property, public building grounds, or public roadways or right-of-ways. And again, the law took effect July 1st. We're 17 days into this as of right now. So our response, the way that we've implemented this is we had to change some city code to comply with state law. We will also continue to support a housing first model, wraparound services, and a compassionate approach to reduce the impacts of homelessness in our community. And we will prepare and distribute informational materials for those experiencing homelessness about local support resources that are available as well. So public camping or sleeping in Boise, public roads or right-of-ways is considered an infraction, which is a $10 fine. And when we added this $10 fine or infraction as of July 1st, the cost of that is actually a little bit more because there's some court costs associated with that. So it's just over $50, I think. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. So like our citation that we give is $10, but because of court costs and other fees that go along with that, it's a little bit more. So we have updated our policy to support the city ordinance, and I'll talk to you about that. But we will continue to utilize our community partners that we currently work with and outreach teams to educate the community about this law and connect those who are unsheltered with resources. And this is one of the things that it's changed as of July 1st. There's no longer a requirement to verify that shelter availability is available for those before any enforcement action is taken. And so that's one of the things that changed is prior to July 1st, you know, if the shelters were completely full, we really was no recourse for us to be able to take any action. But after July 1st, that's not a requirement anymore. And if they meet the requirements, those definitions of, you know, camping or sleeping, we have the ability to take enforcement action if needed right then. One of the things that we did March 1st of this year was a collaborative initiative to kind of improve the quality of area around the shoreline district. And that kind of covers that area that I had talked about. Some of the things is we identify challenges in the shoreline area. We worked with a lot of stakeholders, business owners, and people that work and live in that area in the shoreline district. We worked with code enforcement, parking enforcement, and city legal. And we basically, the department had 4 officers that were on bike patrol Monday through Friday. And they worked until, it was a 10-hour shift, worked until 8 o'clock. And their whole purpose was to focus on the shoreline district and area, specifically to help kind of focus on that area. And it cost the department $227,346 in overtime that we spent to do that. And we had a lot of good, positive responses back from the community down there. And our officers, we told them we wanted them to be very proactive. We wanted them to go inside businesses, talk to the employees that work there, interact with people around the shoreline area, be very visible. This was not just drive around on a bicycle for 10 hours. We kept pretty good track of how many contacts they made throughout their shift. And so we kind of watched how this unfolded. As of July 1st, we're not currently doing this anymore. But one of the things that we also did was we met with our community stakeholders about this in particular, got some feedback from them, business owners about this, and they were very appreciative of the efforts that we made towards this. So what it did was just helped increase officer presence that we had down there, improve the quality of life for the businesses and residents. And it was a positive feedback that we also got from the community from that. And then there's a couple of reporting ways that people currently have. It's either through our non-emergency line. I know that we've had several volunteers and members from Parks and Rec that when they run across either camping or sleeping, they contact our bike officers that work down there, and then our bike officers will go and follow up with those. And then our bike officers are currently, it doesn't really change how they operate and do day-to-day work in the bike unit. But when we get reported camping in those areas from the public, we generate a call for service and that we follow up on those things. And that's all I had.
Thank you very much. Do we have questions?
Madam Chair, Lieutenant Sly, how do you envision this will change with this new law in place, the actual in the field practice of dealing with these situations?
I think it'll be very similar to what we've kind of experienced before, because this is something that our bike officers that work in that area, I mean, it's something they, work with every single day. And so there's, the citations that go along with that. It is a $10 fine. We find that some comply with it and some don't. And so, but, we also do our best to make sure that, we are providing them with opportunities for service and other resources that they may have. And some, take us up on that and others don't. So I think it's a continual process that we just have to keep working with.
Madam Chair, Lieutenant, I know one of the concerns I think some of us have had is your discretion, your officer's discretion of being able to, whether you issue that citation or not. And one of the concerns, if you go the letter of the law, if somebody is on their lunch hour taking a nap in the park, does that mean that they're camping in the park if they're laying there just enjoying the sun, or is that something that discretion comes into play?
That's a great question, because, one of the verbiage that's in there is prolonged. And, how do we know what prolonged is? That makes it super difficult for our officers to be able to determine that. And so we've got to ask good questions and talk to people about what they're doing there and stuff like that, because ultimately, people that are there, like just down there enjoying the sun, maybe they're, sitting on the side of the bank and sunbathing and stuff. We still have to make contact with them, and we still have to interact with them based on the way that this is written, because this isn't specific for a particular group. This is for everybody, and we have to be fair in how we apply this to everybody.
I'll comment real quick, but Lieutenant Sly, thank you for presenting, and know that it's a challenge to enforce this fairly, as you said, but it certainly is, in my opinion, the right thing for the community on all sides, and so it takes compromise to pull this off. But just really thank you for doing the work with you and your fellow policemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you guys collect any data on, how often a person will take you up on a resource, like, where they could go versus not? And then I guess to follow up, those who do not, that they just receive the citation and that's all?
Yeah, those are great questions. There's a couple of ways that that we track those. And some of those ways are based on our calls for service that we do have, and our officers, if we have officers that are in patrol vehicles, because they have a computer that's like in their car, they can add call notes and things into their car. But our bike officers, they don't have that opportunity to be able to do that. So there's times where they may have a person that is asking for resources, and we're able to provide that to them. And those are really hard to capture because we don't have like 100% way to be able to do that. It just, makes it difficult because officers are on their bikes and they don't have a computer. And it's just the way that it's set up for them. They don't have that opportunity to be able to do that. But like through other means that we do, like we also have our behavioral health response team that, oftentimes will get called to those areas to, depending on where it's at, to help with people who are having crisis and things like that. And our behavioral health response team, they keep track of all of those because of the type of work that they specifically do. So there is data that's available, but it's not like 100%. It just makes it a little bit challenging to be able to capture all of that. And then you had a second question. I don't remember what it was. I'm sorry.
I was just asking for like the people who, I think you did answer it, the people who
Okay.
might not want to accept something. What do you do?
Oh,
I mean, I'm sorry to be silly. I mean, do you give them rides places or do you just leave them be if they take their citation and
Yeah, there's a
continue?
variety of ways that that we do that. Is we can either take them to some place, or if somebody doesn't want to, because there's people that if you issue a citation, they'll rip it up like right in front of you, and that does happen. So there's some of that does go on, and I think it's the reality of like what our officers deal with. But I think that we're not going to get 100% compliance on it. And I think it's a matter of our officers, just making sure that they're keeping track of that, and they're making those rounds, and still contacting them and doing what we can, because that is a challenge that we have. Is somebody gets a citation and then they don't pay it. Now, what's the fallout for that? So we're still kind of working through some of those challenges that we have.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. I certainly appreciate it. Thank you for being here. This is a really tough, change. And like you said, it's kind of hard to know the gravity of it and how effective it's going to be. It all comes down to safety and of all the people involved as well. So I appreciate you having people out there and then having to increase your time.
Well, I think one of the things that has really helped across the board is the collaborative efforts that we've had. This just isn't a Boise Police Department like problem or issue. It's a citywide department or issue, and we work really close with a lot of other services that we have with the city to try to do this together. Ultimately, we're the ones that are out there, usually boots on the ground, interacting with and dealing with this situation. But we have a lot of good community partners that we work with pretty closely on a regular basis and meet with, which I think has really helped the overall process of us being able to navigate this. So that's definitely been helpful, because we can't do it by ourselves.
No, that's great. I'm glad you have partners to work with, and it's new, and hopefully you can find your way through this and continue to have a lot of support, because
Thank you.
it's a tough one. I think we appreciate your time, Lieutenant
Okay,
Slot.
thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Parks and Recreation Strategic Plan presented by Sarah Arkle, Superintendent, Parks.
Good afternoon. Just get my presentation going here. Okay. A little bit of a lighter topic. Nice to be with you, commissioners. I'm very excited to share our efforts and the final product. Our team embarked on about a year-long process to develop a new strategic plan for Boise Parks and Recreation Department this year. We finished in, I believe, March or April. You may ask yourself, what's a strategic plan? Why are we doing one now? I could give you a very technical answer for that, but I think I'm going to stick with what's on the slide. Boise's changed. Our guiding document that we have been utilizing to guide decision-making and provide defensibility around our decision-making was written in 2011. And we're required by Blueprint Boise, which is our comprehensive plan, to update our planning efforts. And we took a new approach this time around and really shrunk the timeline, and in terms of like this plan isn't going to be relevant 10 years from now. Our world's changing too quickly, our community's changing too quickly, and the issues that we're dealing with are more and more complex. So we really looked at a strategic plan that would guide our work for the next 3 to 5 years and refresh and update our articulation of who we are as a department. So I'm pretty excited about this work because it really, and what I'm going to share today, because it really does encapsulate, I think, what our department hopes to be to the community and how we do that work. So where Boise belongs, that's our tagline, I guess you'd say, for Boise Parks and Recreation. We have over 100 developed park sites, over 113 park properties, including open space reserves and some undeveloped park properties. And we want to proudly provide innovative and exceptional park and recreation experiences today and for future generations. We were able to define some guiding principles, and we had the opportunity to share this with our entire team at an all-hands meeting. I think it was May, and at the time we shared that hopefully none of this is surprising, right? Because we should be already acting and already doing this work in this way. Really what we hoped to do with this strategic plan is define who we are and how we do what we do. So we care. We invest in our open spaces, in our parks and our resources, in the environment and the community, and we celebrate our heritage. We are a place where people can connect. We create access to activities and amenities and each other, fostering easy belonging for everyone. And I'm so proud to be able to use the word belonging, because I think that is such a big part of building community and maintaining these beautiful, welcoming, clean spaces that we all enjoy, whether it's downtown or a neighborhood park or a regional park like Ann Morrison or along the Boise River. We perform. So that's more of like a internal sort of charge, right? We listen and we serve our whole community, and we invest in our team, our Boise Parks and Recreation team, to sustain our future. There was a lot of fun conversation that went into defining who we are, and a lot of whiteboarding. But ultimately, we came down with these 4 adjectives: we're welcoming, we're dedicated, we're resourceful, and we're fun. I don't think you can work for a recreation department and not include fun somewhere. That's just a personal, well, I think the unifying factor that brings all of our team together is the desire to do fun things. So we're really, really proud to be able to share that with the community. Most of you probably know most of this, but if not, it's always a good opportunity to kind of just go through who we are, right? There's 185 full-time employees in the Parks and Recreation Department. Like I said, we have 100 developed parks. The Settlers Canal Path Park was our 100th developed park that we opened just a month and a half ago, 6 weeks ago. We have 12 undeveloped park sites, 5,000 acres of open space and 15 reserves. I mean, you look at these numbers and you think, wow, we are so fortunate in this community that our community and our leadership have been so consistently dedicated to these spaces. Over 3,000 recreation programs offered. That continues to grow every year based on demand. We have 11 community centers. Oh, 4 outdoor pools is actually, yeah, 6 total there. I'm glad it's, we've got a couple that are out of commission at this time, as you well are aware, Lowell and South. But they are still part of our inventory, and we hope to get them back up and running soon. 8 splash pads and fountains. Splash pads and fountains have been very popular over the last few years. And it's a great option if you don't have the budget to develop a pool in a park. Those splash pads and those fountains, like at Ann Morrison, become a community gathering space for people of every generation. I go into Ann Morrison Park every day to get to my office, and by 9 o'clock in the morning, there are kids and grandparents, and I mean, they're using the fountain. It's really wonderful, and that's what we want, right? We build these things so people enjoy them. We have 300 animals at Zoo Boise. Hopefully, we'll be growing that number with some of the improvements that are being proposed through their master planning effort. Our operating budget is over 50 million, but that does not actually incorporate our full budget. I know this because I had to work with Karen Bledsoe, our chief financial officer, over the last week to update my resume so that I could apply for the director position. And it's over 65 million. So I'm really proud of that work that the team is doing. And, some of that budget is possible because of the revenue that we generate through these recreational programs. And then, of course, we're always looking at how we rate or how we rank across the country with regard to cities our size or cities bigger than we are. We just ranked 19th in the nation for parks. It's a very complicated algorithm that gives us that ranking, which I won't go into now. We can maybe do that at another time at another meeting.
Yeah,
but-
Madam Chair, I would just add, Sarah, this is great information, by the way. That park score, the way they do that, Trust for Public Land takes the 100 largest cities in the country. So it's 100 largest cities, and they rank based on this very complicated scoring system. But we're 19th in the nation out of the 100 largest, which is pretty good.
I think so.
I
You
mean,
can all
it's
give
not
yourself
number
a-
one. We would like to be number one, and there's some areas that are going to be tough to be number one. But yeah, I think it's worthy of patting ourselves on the back in this community that we invest. And I'll say this with Council Member Morales at the table as well. Thank you for your investment in Parks and Recreation, because that's a pretty good number to have.
It's a wonderful number. I had the opportunity to go to the National Parks and Recreation Association conference, which is a huge gathering of parks professionals all across the nation. And, not a lot of communities have had the opportunity to consistently fund parks and recreation departments through various economic challenges, right? And I think that Boise's been unique in having a Parks and Recreation department over the last 40 years that's never been dismantled. That's actually quite unique. So that attests to why we have such wonderful amenities and why we're spoiled as a community. I think it's okay to say that. It's where we belong. So part of this strategic planning effort, in addition to identifying who we are and how we do the work that we do and the approach that we take in service delivery, is also articulating some specific goals. A strategic plan, I'm not an expert in strategic planning, don't get me wrong. Trevor probably is. Our parks planner could probably be much more specific about the purpose of a strategic plan, but ultimately it is to define who you are, define what you want to do, and determine how you're going to make sure you meet those goals. So we're in the middle here with these are our department-wide goals. The 10-minute walk, obviously front and center. We want to make sure everybody has relatively easy access to a park in their neighborhood, a pathway, open space, recreational programming. We want to outperform our peers, and that speaks to the ranking that we participate in for that TPL park score. That requires an effort on our end. We have to compile a lot of data, a lot of information to submit to them in order for them to rank us. We provide inclusive and accessible park amenities, open space opportunities, and recreational programming. That is across the board, the leadership team's general goal for every facility, every park, every recreational program is to make sure that it is inclusive and accessible. We thread stewardship throughout our programs and investments. These places, these lands, these parks, these open spaces, we want to make sure that they retain their qualities, right? If it's a pollinator garden, we want to make sure it continues to be a pollinator garden. We want to make sure our turf is healthy. We want so that people can play sports on it. You know, it's stewardship is threaded through every decision we make. Ensure that the growth of service does not negatively impact service delivery. And that will be a continual challenge. We have done a lot in the last year to identify what our levels of service should be, whether it's in a park setting or in a recreational program setting. How many people do we need? How much maintenance dollars do we need to add this new amenity or add this new program? And so that'll be an ongoing place where we can provide some performance measures. We want to bring out the best in our employees. We were just talking about how do we measure some of this stuff and thinking through how many people have been with the Boise Parks and Recreation Department for over 5 years, for over 10 years, for over 15 years. We've had some really quality folks invest in us, and we want to make sure we're investing in them. Collaborate with partners to maximize outcomes. Next week, I believe, we're doing the opening of Grill and Golf. Is that right? Is it next week? Soft opening. We will be opening the Warm Springs Grill and Golf facility over the next few weeks. And that is a great example, a recent example of how partnership can really generate something that we would not be able to do on our own, whether it's budget constraints, or in some cases, we need agreements with landowners in order to make, trails. Partnerships in this community are what drive the success of Parks and Recreation, and we will continue to do that and make sure that it is prioritized. And then, of course, we would love to answer the question, are we successful in doing this work? And so all of those goals are wonderfully, articulated on paper, but we want to make sure they're actionable and that we're measuring, collecting information to tell the story of how we're meeting those goals. 10-minute walk's easy, right? We've got a percentage, 74% of folks in our town can, walk or bike safely to a park or a pathway or an open space area. Some of those other ones are going to be a little harder to identify. So, and I'll get into that a little bit later. I wanted to go through each division's goals very quickly. But it also will be a good kind of reminder of the breakup of our department, right? We have a division of administration, and that team does all of our special events, all of our reservations, all of our policies, managing things like, the cemeteries and the 4th of July event. So they want to maintain a balanced budget to make sure we can meet service needs and account for expected growth. We want customer satisfaction to be high and engagement to be easy. We want our admin team to support all divisions across the department, whether that be assisting with agreements or making sure that sprinklers don't come on during a 4th of July event or some neighborhood event at a park. Communications and marketing. Our superintendent is Bonnie Shelton. We want to make sure the community has easy access to information and events and programming, that we have a reputation as a city that's associated with high quality standards and speaks to those cultural elements we talked about earlier, welcoming, dedicated, resourceful, and fun. We want to tell our story. These places where people come to seek respite or have a good time or connect with their family and friends, these places are special. And we as humans need to hear stories in order to make sure that we retain a cultural knowledge about why these places are special. And so that's important to generating interest and making sure that we have safe and welcoming spaces for everyone. Provide opportunities for the community to engage and help shape our plans, whether it's through a master planning effort or a survey, helping a community decide what type of playground they want. That's an ongoing thing we do every year, oftentimes multiple times a year, and it's a heavy lift, and our communications and marketing team led by Bonnie do a great job. And then, of course, supporting all divisions across the department. There's a lot of stories to tell. Recreation. Superintendent Roseanne Brown leads this team. We want to make sure, of course, everything is, our recreational and educational programming is diverse and equitable, and it meets the interests, abilities, and needs of everyone in our community. Programming needs to foster belonging. Again, that word that I think is so powerful to continue to create these community connections that we need. Wellness and an active lifestyle. Programming generates revenue. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of our operating budget is provided through that revenue. If we weren't able to generate that revenue, we wouldn't be able to have those programs. And fostering partnerships to improve service delivery, diversity, and add capacity. We partner with the Boise School District. We partner with the YMCA. We partner with a number of other program delivery service providers in the area to make sure that we're supporting one another and supporting the community that we serve. Foothills and Open Space, led by Lisa Duplessis. Our natural amenities serve as educational and experience-based spaces to foster stewardship and a welcoming atmosphere. We want trails and open space to be accessible and support a diversity of uses. Natural amenities are managed to reduce climate risk and support resiliency. And although these are high-level goals, there's a lot nested within the plan, I should mention, that's not identified here in this presentation. But some of that climate risk and resiliency relates to wildfire. Some of it relates to non-native species invasion, and also just soil retention. So there's an ecological aspect to open space work that is fundamental to maintaining our beautiful spaces. Environmental programming meets the changing needs of the community. Lisa was instrumental in developing the first outdoor preschool opportunity in Boise at the Foothills Learning Center. It has been expanded to Bugs, and it has sparked some private investment in that type of experience for children. But we are committed to making sure that a child at every age, right, whether you're a 90-year-old child or a 3-year-old child, has the opportunity to engage in our foothills and trails and also learn about why they're so important and how they can be an active participant in preserving them. Parks resources, that's my division. We want to make sure access is equitable and park spaces connect our community to each other and the natural environment. And that speaks to a diversity of uses or a diversity of experiences you can have within a park. And making sure that as we're doing park planning, master planning, or park space identification for future park development, that we're thinking about access and we're thinking again about how we can connect people to places. Park assets and features are maintained and operated to a high standard. Pathways connect residents to parks and community services and resources. A lot of pathways are either within a park or leading to a park. So we will continue to be an active member and participant and leader in developing those pathway connections. Parks serve a diversity of ecosystem benefits to meet climate resilience goals. I think if anyone was here in 2016, 2017 winter, when we watched all of our riverside parks offer flood control, it really hits in why we need to preserve some of these spaces, whether it's for stormwater protection to make sure that the Boise River doesn't get polluted by runoff, or if it's flooding related. Support special use facilities like Idaho Ice World and the Boise Whitewater Park that offer unique recreational opportunities for residents. I think hopefully you've all been able to visit these places. I'm particularly fond of the Whitewater Park because I am personally a whitewater enthusiast. And it's a very specialized place, and we need people who are specially trained to manage it. Again, going back to, we need to retain and make sure our team is prepped, ready, and happy to do the work that they need to do. Zoo Boise, Superintendent Jean Peacock, prioritize animal welfare and care, lead in conservation efforts locally and internationally, providing high-quality recreational and educational experiences, and generate additional revenue with diverse partners to support operations and growth. Hopefully, as everyone's had an opportunity to go visit the new Red Panda exhibit. It is adorable. The exhibit itself is beautiful. It's very, it's designed to increase the opportunity for animals to have an engaging experience, not just with their zookeepers, but also with participants in the zoo, or excuse me, visitors to the zoo. There's a lot more coming. And I wish Jean were here to speak in more detail, but that's as far as I'll go right now. So what are the next steps? I've gone through this kind of quickly. Hopefully, I didn't go too fast, but we need to establish those key performance indicators. We, again, good words on paper, representative of the work that we do. How do we make sure we're meeting those goals? So we're doing that work now. Some of it will be external facing, some of it will be internal facing. I'm working with Jeff Gearhart, who's our asset manager and GIS specialist, to put together a story map that will go on the website so that anyone who visits the Boise Parks and Recreation website can have an understanding of who we are and what we're trying to do, and also how we are tracking our data. So there'll be a dashboard element to it that will report out some of that information. We're sharing our strategic plan with all the department staff, like I said, in May, with you here today, with city leadership, and then of course with our visitors and visitors to our website. So hopefully in the coming months, you'll see some things on social media. You'll see some things on our website that will bring you in to this story and bring you into this process. And I already mentioned the story map. So happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sarah. Great presentation. I'm really excited about the plan. Questions?
I have one. Super Sarah. How many cities have a surf wave in their rivers?
Gosh, that's a great question, Commissioner Raber. I don't have a number on the top of my head. When we went to NRPA this last summer, Bonnie Shelton and I presented about the Whitewater Park. And we had probably about 40 people in the room who were interested in having a facility like that in their city, but there aren't many. We have one up at Donnelly, right? Kelly's Whitewater Park. There's one here in Boise, so there's 2 in Idaho. But if you look across the Western states, I would be surprised if there was one in each state. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to have parks property adjacent, right? So that you can access and put features in the river. You have to have significant support from the community. That's an $11 million facility in 2017 dollars. And a lot of that was because we had support of the Simplot family and foundation. And then of course the groundswell of grassroots support and fundraising that was done. So it's a very, very, very unique thing. And it does not come without its challenges, don't get me wrong, but it is a wonderful facility that is unique to Idaho and unique to the West. In a lot of eastern states, you just don't have public property adjacent to rivers in order to do that. But I have had some conversations with folks in some of the southern states where there might be like state land adjacent to rivers, that where they want to create a whitewater feature. They don't have the type of river that generates a natural whitewater feature. So they're doing like an off channel. But it, like I said, very unique.
Now, are there uncompleted phases?
Yes, I actually would like Doug to speak to that. Because I get a little confused about the phases, to be honest with you. I know we have completed phase 1. We are in the process of completing phase 2. We should be completed with that this winter. We have to go into the river again this winter to complete the modifications that were started last winter. But we had an early runoff season and got kicked out by the Army Corps a few weeks early. And then I believe there is a phase 3, but I don't know that it's been fully designed yet.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commission members. So there is a movement and all this started with a movement among kayakers, mainly kayakers, and surfers came along with the process. And all of a sudden, Boise became a surf community when it really was more of a kayak, whitewater type of a park. And that groundswell was probably 25 to 30 years in the making. that continues with a group of individuals that would like to see the diversion dam in Ann Morrison, Settlers Diversion, that's right off Americana. If you're driving on Americana on the bridge, you can look off to your, I guess it would be east, and you can see the diversion there. It's a very dangerous diversion, but that is a diversion that supports a canal there that is owned by settlers, I believe. And that is the next phase that the kayakers and surfers would like to see occur. Something Sarah kind of skipped over the top of in 2017, $18 of 11 million. I don't know what one would cost today. It's extremely expensive. And she did elaborate on the permitting process. I think it took 2 years just to get the permits to be able to do phase 2. So there's really it's a heavy, heavy lift to do it. I think in the future, that settlers diversion in Ann Morrison Park is important to look at because of the safety piece to it. But it will take some significant funding. And that's the thing, when Sarah hears from other cities, I've heard from a large number of other cities that reach out to us and like, how did you do this? We want to do it. I never hear from them again. You know, they try and you can't pull it off. I mean, it's just not, it's very, very, I think the uniqueness of what we have, probably there's nothing like it. There's models similar, but exactly what we have, I think, is definitely very, very unique. And then when you add the ester and component to it, now it becomes like really unique. Like there's just nothing like it. So we're very, very fortunate to have a partner like the JA and Catherine Albertson Family Foundation that funded a very large portion of this. The Simplot Family Foundation that did Esther Simplot, and really did that with the idea of hoping that the Whitewater Park would come along with it. And so all this just came together, and we kind of take it for granted sometimes, but really when you step back and really look at this is something that you just don't see in other communities. So Sarah, nice work. This is a lot of good information. I think as Sarah pointed out, there's a whole bunch more in the background of all this stuff that we just don't have time to share today. One other point I would make, though, is this takes a true team to run this department. And just to give you an idea of the magnitude, one of the slides, Sarah pointed out 185 full-time employees. That's 185 full-time employees we have. There's actually, just this past week, I looked, our payroll was 842 employees. So the difference between the 185 and that 842 or 843 are all of our temp and seasonal employees. We need every single one of them to be able to operate this business during the summertime. And so that number is actually twice the size of the next largest department in the city, which is our police. So from a magnitude standpoint, we're a big employer of folks here in the community as well. And I tell you, it takes every one of them to make every employee, and their passion and their desire to serve our community is just off the charts. And that's what it takes to have a 19th rank, in the 100 largest cities park and recreation program. We just call it world class. That's how we refer to it, because it is. So I want to give a shout out to all those temps and seasonals we have on our payroll that are actually making things go to as well.
We might as well give a shout out to Human Resources for the continual hiring that we do every year.
Yes, thank you, HR.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big lift. That's probably bigger than the some of the bigger national parks. I got to do Whitewater Park. I mean, it was safe with a rafting company that was, it was really fun going down those waves. I must say, I had no idea actually till recently that their companies did that. And it was really a nice feature. And so it's not just for kayakers.
It is not just for
Yeah.
kayakers. It's for surfers. It's for, you can take a kiddo with a life jacket and
Mhm.
preferably a helmet and
Mhm.
do some bodyboarding even on some of those
Yeah,
lower waves.
Okay.
So another place where you see multi-generational enjoyment and multi-use.
No, I really appreciate this presentation and all the different goals you have here. I'm a bit of a data nerd, so I'll be really interested to see how you track your key performance indicators. There's colored codes and lines and all kinds of stuff you can do with Excel sheets and stuff to in ways to show the public how you're meeting your metrics. And so I'll be really excited to hear about that.
Well, we'll be happy to, come back in a year with an update if
Mhm.
that's something the commission would like to see.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Do we have more questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I just want to thank you as well for all that you do, and yeah, I'll just speak to what the director mentioned. Council, obviously, this is a big priority for our neighbors, and if you look at our budget that we just passed, we continue to make that an important thing. And it's interesting to look into the park score more and to see we're doing a really good job as a city per capita and the amount that we're spending on parks. And it's not just new parks, it's also looking at other parks that need to be maintained or updated. And you'll see that in the budget. And that's really important to us. And I think on the master plan, I think one of the thoughts that I have in terms of this is, sometimes if you're trying to do everything, you may not do everything well. And so there are certain things that we probably do really well, and digging into that park score would be really interesting to see what kinds of things are highlighting, where are we really good at, what things are we not doing super well on, and that's just a choice that we need to make with resources or things. One of the interesting things as I was digging into it just now was the amenities measure. And we're doing really well on some of these amenities, and then other like rec and senior centers really low. And so kind of thinking about how those decisions are made, and if it's kind of, this is just the things that we're investing in now. And we've made a decision there are some things that we can't invest as much in, or perhaps there's other community resources that are filling these needs for residents. I think having that whole picture is kind of helpful for us to know, well, how many things can we do really well, and what are we doing, and what are the other things that maybe that are not capable of doing, or what are the things that we should try to do better. So thank you for kind of thinking about these things holistically, and with this plan, really excited to see the KPIs and other things they come up with.
Wonderful.
Well, thank you, Sarah, very much. And I think we should go for 10th. I think we can get that.
Agreed.
And
Top
Agreed.
10, top 10.
Madam Chair, I did want to make a comment about that too. I'm just glad we're well ahead of cities like Spokane, Fresno, Reno. So we do want to stay well ahead of those guys.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Okay, I think we've gotten through our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you so much. The meeting's adjourned.